Hey there, guys. So, if you don't know already, I have a different channel in addition to this one. There's a channel on which I play Football Manager, which is actually a soccer game from Great Britain. And it's pretty addicting. The interesting thing about Football Manager that I talk about in my second video today on that channel is the fact that the newly created players that are created by the computer in that game tend to be the thing that gets you really interested in it, not the players in real life, which is fascinating because I would actually argue that the opposite is true for these baseball games that we play. Now, there are not a whole bunch of baseball games that will offer you completely fictional players. There are some that will come with some out of the box. The one that has newly generated players is probably OOTP. I'll admit I haven't had a lot of experience playing with OOTP and sort of moving forward with completely fictional players. The reason why is because I'm not a huge fan of the way that baseball has been played the last 20 years or so, right? If I have the choice, I would much rather play the game the way that it was played beforehand. But it's very interesting because sort of the thing that will make Football Manager frustrating when you play it with real players, that is guys not playing the way that they played in real life, is the very thing that makes it interesting in these simulation games. So we'll go ahead and take a quick look here and just look and see what we can figure out here in terms of Diamond Mine, or in terms of NP3. We might take a look at Diamond Mine as well, might as well. The interesting thing about NP3 is we see here early in the 1908 season is just how big the difference is between what we're seeing in game and what happened in the end in real life. If we were going to do a 1908 replay and you didn't know which game we're playing with, you didn't know much about it, you would sort of make your estimate as to what would happen. You would almost certainly say that, well, you're going to have a three-team race in the National League and the American League, right? National League will be the Cubs, Giants, and Pirates, probably in that order. And the American League, you'd expect to see the Tigers, the Naps, and the White Sox in that order. As you can see here, I mean, it still is early, but the Pirates are 7.5 games out of first and are not playing well and are not looking like they're going to bring it back up, right? Here in the American League, it's actually the Philadelphia Athletics that are starting to come out on top and starting to develop a lead. Now, in the National League, it is kind of realistic that the Giants and Cubs were good, but they weren't this much better than the rest of the league in real life. I mean, the Giants have a 760 winning percentage, which is really impressive. I mean, even this early in the season. So it's interesting to see sort of like the difference that we have going on. We go look at our batting leaders, and this is where it becomes fascinating because even at this early stage, for the most part, we're going to, and I just hit the Excel button, didn't I? We're going to click on Get Batting Leaders, which is what we wanted. There we go. For the most part, this will sort of follow real life, but there is still some deviation, right? Clark, for example, with the Naps, is probably not known for being like an absolutely amazing hitter in real life in 1908. He's just having, some good rolls here over 26, 27 games or something like that. The guy who you don't see on this list of batting average leaders is Ty Cobb, right? Well, what's happening with Cobb? He's scoring runs, he's getting RBIs kind of, but he's not hitting the ball. He's not hitting for average, and he's definitely not getting on base. Fascinating stuff. Well, now we get to see whether that's going to last or not. In the National League, Honus Wagner, of course, we all know about, but most of us have forgotten about Mike Donlin, who's having one heck of a year and has driven in 26. And has more hits than anybody else and seems to be dominating in almost every category here that we can find. So it's interesting to see just how different things are from real life. Go take a look here at the pitching leaders really quick, and you can see that ERA has been low. A little bit lower than real life in the American League especially, but Cy Young with a 0.79 ERA is really low. That is impressive in the NL. It ends up being Dorner with the Doves of all guys, somebody, again, who you wouldn't realize or wouldn't expect, and he's doing better than overall Mathewson. And, I mean, the Cubs pitching staff is just simply awesome, right? As you can see here, the Giants have a very good one as well. It's interesting to see just how different this is from real life. And that in in these simulation games, including Diamond Mine and Skeetersoft and whatever else you play, that's sort of the thing that makes it exciting. That's the thing that makes it so interesting to watch, right? I've shown this before, but if you look over here at, the leaders in, let's say, batting in 1908 so far, you're going to see some interesting and similar trends, right? So it's actually Mitchell with the Indians leading everybody with batting average, which is interesting, followed by Ralph Kiner. And then you get to Ted Williams. The real-life leader, who was George Kell with the Tigers, is not even close to the list. He's having kind of an off year, right? The other thing you see, and this is one of those things we love to follow, is the home run race. Kiner has 19 home runs already. How many games have we played? Let's go take a look here. The Pirates, you can see we're doing it the right way. We haven't played ahead. Pirates have played 41 games. He has 19 home runs in 41 games. So I don't know. I mean, you're around 20, right? And you're thinking, all right, it's a 154 game season. So we're less than a third of the way into the season, and we already have almost a third of the home runs you need to catch Ruth. It could happen, right? Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe they'll do well. Maybe they'll do poorly. Who knows, right? That's part of the fun here. So on the one hand, whereas when you're playing with games of newly generated players, you have a lot of fun, like trying to learn more about the players, getting to know who these new guys are, and having them be your own legends in your own world, in your own head. In this type of game, it's different. You learn more about players. You see how they play realistically. You go through and you play through these games, and it's almost like you're watching them as if you were seeing this happen live. That's kind of where it is. That's kind of what the difference is between these different types of games, right? It's not to say that one is more realistic than the other, but there definitely is a difference, and they apply to different types of people, right? So that's one of the reasons why here we don't necessarily freak out too much. The Dodgers are 7.5 games back. The Cardinals 9.5 games back in 1949. Right? Even though, I mean, in real life, it wasn't quite like that. Sometimes you get the lucky break, sometimes you don't. It's interesting to see how things average out. And when we're looking for statistics to compare to say whether it is like an accurate replay or not, we have to look into what the overall statistics are and not only look at, say, a select few players or, something with a really low sample size, right? Meanwhile, in the American League, who is it? It's the Red Sox and the Yankees up 1 and 2, Indians third, and then the Athletics fourth, which I believe is exactly how it was in real life. How about that? Interesting how that works out. Sometimes it works out the way it did in real life. Sometimes you're like way off, and the Giants are having a really good year for whatever reason. So anyway, there you go. Just a couple of thoughts there on this subject. It actually is kind of a subject that matters. I mean, we don't necessarily always think about it like this, right? But there are some people who will get upset with their simulation games if it doesn't happen the way it did in real life. We haven't talked about this very much yet, but one thing that I do know is that for a lot of people who played, especially APBA back in the old days, the won-loss record mattered for a lot. In fact, we kind of know that J. Richard Sides would do certain things to try to make sure that the right teams were winning in the pennant, even if they ended up running away with the pennant in the end because of the adjustments he made. The reason why is because you get guys like my dad who maybe didn't play a full replay, but if they're going to pick two teams, they want to make sure that the team that won more games in real life has a better chance of winning than the other team. So you can kind of see like what the thinking was behind this, and a little glimpse into why these games were created sort of the way that they were created. Anyway, there you have it, and that's about it for me today. Hope you guys have a good day. I'll talk with you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.